Hello and welcome to the show. I am Mary Grace. This is the Mary Grace Show. I'm the voice of sanity to help you navigate politics, culture, wellness, faith, and world events. And we are here today with one of our favorite medical people, functional medicine specialist, Dr. Troy Spruill of OfficialSynapse.com. He is one of our partners here at the Mary Grace Show. And we are super happy to have him here as always. We love talking about all things health, and we will be doing some Q&A at the end of the show. If you do have a health question, please save it for the end and proceed your questions with QQQ so that we know it is a question for Dr. Sproul. We'll take as many as we can in the time that we have, but we wanted to start by happy February, happy 30 days of the new Trump administration, 31 days now. Uh, what have you got for us? What are you seeing in the landscape out there as a practitioner, with a lot of changes coming?
Well, it's so good, number one, but it's also very all over the place for some people. So there is a lot of fear in some areas, and even people who are were on the fence as far as should I vote for Trump. Some of them are pretty nervous because of what's happening. Other people are so overjoyed. Most people are so overjoyed, and so in the grand scheme of things, it's great. In the grand scheme of things, people like yourself and myself who've been part of this the movement and really awake to what's been going on for a while are just ecstatic at how things are rolling out. And so there's little bits of information that are coming out just week by week, which is exactly what President Trump promised us. He told us 2 years ago, when I win, we're going to be celebrating for a year, and it's going to be a new announcement. Every week, there's going to be something. Well, it's every day. It really is every day. And so that part's really good. RFK getting in since the last time we spoke, that's a big deal. And same with Kash Patel. And I can share one thing. I was being interviewed with some in another show and was speaking off air with the interviewer, and they themselves were interviewed on another show that dealt more with military stuff, and they confirmed a lot of how the reason why Trump is able to go so rapid fire with stuff is because the last 4 years they've been working on it,
Yep.
and these particular people sat down, were working on it. So all of these people that you now see, Kash Patel getting confirmed, they're all on message. Every single one of them. Have you seen Stephen Miller? Have you seen Pam Bondi?
Yeah.
They're just on message, and they're Holman. They know, and that scares the living daylights out of people. Number one,
Mhm.
if you have something to hide, Republican or Democrat,
Yeah.
that should scare the living daylights out of you. But also people who truly were deceived by the media that Trump and his people are racists and Nazis. And so they are legitimately scared. So I'm telling people right now, this is a season. Yes, we get to celebrate changes. We still need to be discerning with a lot of things that are coming out,
Mhm.
but we also need to head into the next season with a lot of grace, a lot of mercy, and lead the charge with how to take care of the people, because the
Yeah.
playing field is being leveled right now. The swamp is being drained right now, and we're going to see a new healthcare system, a new Food and Drug Administration, a new financial system. All of it is coming into play.
It's exciting, and I'm happy to hear what you're saying. I was actually just talking to a friend last week, and I was explaining this is what I'm pretty certain has been going on behind the scenes. And one thing that I think is pretty certain is that there have been people inside of these agencies, what we would call sleepers, who are America First, Team
Yeah,
Freedom, who have been working behind the scenes to be prepared for this time and this season. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes they made, meaning the elites, the deep state, with the uniparty, whatever you want to call them, was in giving Trump 4 more years to prepare. I
yeah,
think they're starting to realize that now, that it would have been better, in the long run, probably just to, not steal the election
yeah.
and to have him in office and to continue, hamstringing him and doing the kind of sabotage that they were doing. It's much harder now. That being said, I do know that, there are still people in these agencies and organizations um, who are not on board and who
Oh,
are
yeah.
doing whatever are going to do whatever they can to sabotage, to slow walk, the agenda, and this is why the firings and reassignments are so important, and I hear these I see these videos and posts about people losing their jobs and getting, laid off and things like that. Well, newsflash, this happens every day in the private sector. People are laid off, they are fired, they're reassigned, and that's a given. I think one of the reasons that people in the government jobs are so surprised is because they haven't really had to worry about it, and they've been flying under the radar with a very strong sense of entitlement and even complacency. They probably don't have their resumes lined up and updated, and that was a mistake on their part, especially when the writing was on the wall and they knew that there was gonna be an administration change. This happens in every administration. It's not just the Trump
Well, I will
administration.
say this though, there is a
Yeah.
difference this time because Trump
Yeah.
is he's
Yeah.
draining the swamp, and part of it is I'm gonna say this, if you have friends, who are really confused, who are in government, I have people who work and truly are doing good work, for people. They're helping, and they're
Mhm.
what they're doing is excellent, but, like with some of the USAID, USAID stuff that got taken out, there are
Mhm.
some good programs within that, but here's the thing that this is really important. Especially if they're Christian, they will understand that Satan comes as an angel of light. What that means is
Mhm.
when there's evil involved, evil will mask itself with actual good programs, good
Mm.
businesses. And so God and Trump are pulling back the veil. And
Yeah.
with that, you're losing some good programs. Yes, to identify the corruption, and it you have to wipe it clean. So I'm telling my
Mm.
Christian people, yes, there's going to be good people who are actually going to be caught in the crossfire of this. But here's the thing, if you're a Christian, recognize that God is in play here, and if God is taking care of this, he's going to open up another door for you somewhere else. Eyes on, keep
Mhm.
looking. God will open a door. You have to have faith that it's going to be better eventually. And it's kind of like going to the gym where you have to build up strong muscles. Well, in order to do that, you have to tear them down to build them back up.
Mhm.
That's the season we're going through, and there's going to be such a dynamic change with things that there are going to be some casualties. But again,
Mhm.
there's going to be way more opportunities, and it's going to be better. And truthfully, if you're really good at what you do, there'll be tremendous opportunities. So there's a lot of benefit that's coming your way. And so we are seeing some pretty significant changes. And I want to point one thing out to you.
Sure.
The Trump team was so smart because they went, and if you remember, Biden removed a lot of Trump's people before their tenure was done. The
Mm.
Trump people sued and lost. Now, that was a very intentional thing that they did because when they lost, they set precedent for what Trump is now doing. All of these court cases, there's now precedent for what Trump is doing. Now, if it ends up going to the Supreme Court, which is actually what Trump wants, a lot of this stuff, he wants to go to the Supreme Court. So you
Mhm.
now have a roadmap for the next president to do exactly to listen to what the Supreme Court says. Because Trump says, I'm a president of law and order, I'm a wartime president. All that's
Mhm.
going to come out. And so what they're doing, what he did first in his first 4 years, is get the judges right. So that now,
Yeah.
9, 10 years later, when everything gets to the Supreme Court, you've got your roadmap to how to make this successful as he's exposing things. So it's so
Mhm.
brilliant. You can't even,
Right.
it's just unbelievable
Yeah.
how on top of
Yeah.
things they are.
Yeah. You mentioned Stephen Miller. He's a national treasure. I love watching him in these media interviews. He he knows what they're doing. He knows their strategy. he's anticipating everything they're doing, and he won't be baited into the type of back and forth. He won't be baited into being on defense.
Yep.
So that's pretty amazing, and I think what you're saying is so good that Trump is prepared. And, when it comes to this type of change, I think it's important also when you see people who are pushing out fear type rhetoric, especially around certain orientations and people's rights to engage in certain activities and embrace mental illness and
Yeah.
normalize it. I think this is a real area that I think requires a lot of prayer and compassion because
Yep.
people have been led down a path of uh, normalizing and being told that the deviations that they're experiencing are normal, and they've been validated in those things, and it's even been it's been financed by government money, and I'm talking about people making transitions that aren't in the natural order of things, that type of thing, the military paying for it, all of that's not natural, it's not normal, but because the language and the institutions have been co-opted, and those people have been affirmed and validated in that it's mental illness, that now they are, I think, genuinely afraid
Yeah.
because they're also being, manipulated. There's a lot of emotional manipulation from the media, especially, and the medical community, telling them that this is dangerous, that they're in danger.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be further from the truth, and so, I think as people pray, it is important to pray that God would open their eyes and let them understand the truth about what is actually dangerous. It's not, the truth isn't dangerous. The truth and actual science is not dangerous, but what they've been told and what they've been pushed into many times medically is very dangerous and very damaging.
Yeah.
And so these people need delivered from this. They really do.
Yep, absolutely, and that's the season we're in, and so it's going to be traumatic for a lot of people because of just they legitimately think that they're on the right side of history with these
Mhm.
things, and so it
Mhm.
will be traumatic, and so that's why grace is one of the best things we
Yeah.
can give people. Empathy. This is not the time to gloat, even though we've been working on this for over a decade. This is not
Yeah.
a time to gloat. This is a time to actually take a breath and say, "My gosh, we're here. My God, we're here. This is so phenomenal." And time to pour into people. We're about to see a season of biblical giving like we've never seen before. We're about to see a season of miracles, signs, and wonders, all of those things, because we will be walking along as a country with God, with the principles that He has set forth. And so you're going to see a whole bunch of revelation. God will peel back the layers and pull back the veil, and people will start seeing it. And God's doing it so slowly to actually minimize the amount of damage being done to people,
Mhm.
because yeah, there's a lot here, and we've seen prophecies from Kim Clement that have come true and are coming
Mhm.
true. We've seen, I remember seeing a prophetic word given. It was about 4 or 5 months ago, saying, telling this one missionary to stop flying because there's going to be a season of planes going down. Well, my gosh, we're we're in that season right now too, and so all these things. It's just a miraculous time to be alive.
Yeah.
This is we're living the Bible right now. It's so amazing. So I can't wait to see what happens. And this is what I want people to hear. If someone's pushing fear, it's not from God. So I
Mhm.
know full heartedly, I'm in the healthcare industry. There's a potential that I work my tail off to become the best version of who I am in the healthcare industry. And then one of the revelations that we have through this whole process is that God's going to show up and heal everyone and you're not needed. And guess what? I will be okay with that because because
Yeah.
that's not my identity in Christ. That's not my God-given identity. And that's what we have in the
Mm.
United States right now is an identity crisis. And that's all being reshaped and reformed, but this time with God at the center.
Wow. That's profound. And what you're saying, it's so interesting because identity is everything. And that is one area that has been attacked.
Yeah.
Personal identity, sexual identity, gender identity, like those types of things. And our faith has been compromised so deeply. The the values, family values, just having a family, having
Yeah.
children, right? And the whole depopulation agenda, all of that strikes at the identity because, man is created in God's image. And so when you talk about the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, that's exactly what this is.
Yeah. That's
And
what
it
this is
to
what it looks
me,
like.
yeah, it's no coincidence that, immediately, almost to the like, immediately when Roe v. Wade was pushed back to the states, that the agenda against our children, against mutilating and, uh, permanently transforming their physiology even to the point of castration, that came to the forefront. If you go back and look, that was pushed to the forefront because the Satan doesn't want man to reproduce after his kind, which is the image of God. He hates God.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. This isn't about an ideology. This is about snuffing out the life of God
Yeah.
in man. And when you see it that way, it makes you understand that we are in a spiritual battle. The Our enemy is not flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. And this is why what you're saying is so important, that the prayer um, really is important, and staying grounded in the word and in who he is and who he says you are. That's so
Yeah.
important, and staying away from the fear, because there's always going
Mhm.
to be an invitation to fear. And on
Yeah.
the other side of that is the invitation to faith. And we choose. We choose which
Yeah.
direction we're gonna go. Yeah.
I love that our some of our leaders too. Like I heard RFK talking about what he's going to do and everything,
Mhm.
and then said the same thing. But this is spiritual. This is
Mhm.
a spiritual battle. Like
Yeah.
a lot of our leaders who have been equipped are saying that and recognizing that at the same time.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
absolutely love that we're seeing and hearing this. And
Mhm.
it is like a well-oiled machine. My God,
Yeah, yeah.
it is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, and going back to the identity piece, there's
Yeah,
there's something that I think people may be missing, going back to this, is one of the very first things Trump did on his first day in office was he announced the naming of things. And this is something that I think if you go into the Bible, you'll see from day one, God names things
yeah,
and people, and the names have a meaning.
yes, they
And
do.
one of the things that has happened over the last 12 years, specifically, has been the dismantling and the renaming of American institutions. And so for Trump to rename the Gulf of America, to rename Mount McKinley, this is not just him being petty. This is a shot across the bow
Yeah,
at this spirit that has attacked the very identity of what makes America America. And so I think that everybody listening can probably relate to the idea that the day that Trump was inaugurated, there was a big sense of relief. And I've noticed over the past month that people are more comfortable making comments on social media. They're more confident in who they are and in expressing what they believe. And I think we're going to see more of this. And I think that those things are directly related. To see a president standing up and naming things and renaming and taking back the power of the name. this is something that is not insignificant. And so I want people to ponder that. It may seem like a little trivial thing, but it's not. It's a big thing. And and if you go back and you think about our relationship with God, we literally get a new name when we come into a relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
We become the one who bears the name of Christ. And so this is very significant, and it's to me, it's just another example of President Trump's grounding as a believer. People ask him, like, people say all the time, "Is he really a Christian?" He has an understanding of biblical principles and values that I think a lot of people miss because he doesn't talk about it, he just does it, and the
Yeah.
renaming is a big part of that.
We call he has what we call a Christ consciousness, and so,
Yeah.
and Kim Clement in his prophecy said, "I'll put a man in the White House. He won't be a praying man when he enters the White House, but he'll be a praying man by time he leaves the White House,
Mhm.
and it'll be the first time in generations the Holy Spirit is back in the White House."
Mhm.
And so I remember that prophecy vividly, and I know, well, we both know some people who are in the inner circle,
Yeah.
and so we know that just how he gets prayed over and what he receives. And I remember Clay Clark, talking about practically doing a Bible study with Eric Trump one morning early. I met with Clay early. I think it was 7 a.m. and he had already been up with Eric Trump at 4:30 a.m. having a meeting. I'm like, man, that's just that's unbelievable. So I know there are things happening behind the scenes, and I
Mhm.
know that God is working on Trump. And truthfully, when he Trump was equipped for this, just like David was equipped to take down Goliath. Trump's work ethic, how he built his businesses, he was the man that God used for this time. Just like Cyrus back in
Mhm.
the Bible. Cyrus didn't really know God, especially in the
Yeah.
beginning, but he had the skills and the tools to do what needed to be done, and God used that. And then Cyrus saw how he was used, and marveled
Yeah.
at the Israelites and their God.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And
Yeah,
so what does all this have to do with health?
yeah,
It has a lot to do with it because God is interested in our health. He's
yeah,
interested in us being healthy and being healthy enough to live up to the destiny that he has on our lives. That's what he wants.
yes,
And I was talking about this in another podcast recently. I was interviewed on the Sean Baker podcast, and we were talking about I was talking about Christians and health. And one of the things that sadly has become the normal practice in Christian gatherings is horrible, horrible eating, and a focus on, even to the point of gluttony,
yeah,
eating very metabolically damaging foods. And there's a huge trend in obesity and all kinds of medical issues with Christians. And I think a lot of it is that it replaces other types of addiction, which we know are wrong. And it's easy to pinpoint those things in the Bible, drunkenness and things like that. And so this type of behavior has replaced those things. And it's become not only socially accepted, but in some ways expected. Going out to eat and eating horrible foods. I mean, just overindulging. And I'm not saying this to make people feel guilty, but we do need to have an awareness of this, because
yeah,
if we are wanting to walk into our destiny and to fulfill the destiny that God has on our lives, we can't do that by being broken down, especially at our own by our own hand. And and that is what is happening. Now, there are problems with the food supply. There
yes,
are toxins that make it even worse, and they multiply the damaging effects of what people do put in their mouths. But I believe that I am being given a microphone to issue a an admonition to the church to examine this very closely and to get into prayer, and, God will help you. God will
Yeah,
help you, but you might be the person in your church, in your gathering, in your fellowship that leads the way on this, and it's hard. It is not socially acceptable to be the outlier when it comes to things like changing your diet, especially if you do something radical like carnivore. Um, it's not, but that you could be the one who takes that stand and ends up saving lives, especially of the children. Our children are in trouble. They're in big
yeah,
trouble.
they are.
Um, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I wanna speak to that because there's a there this is a whole thing, right?
Mhm.
So our food supply is definitely contaminated.
Yeah.
The Bible does say all food is good, so I want to speak to that
Mhm.
because unless the individual says that it's not, and so we're at that stage, and so we have a general saying: if God made it, it's good. If man changed it, beware.
Mhm.
And so, um, a lot of stuff that's being eaten right now that's in the not good category, if it got cleaned up, it would be okay. Because we see things like the French
Yeah.
paradox where they're able to eat certain things, smaller volume of them, but they're actually it makes them healthier.
Mhm.
And they have slightly healthier versions because the ingredients are healthier, but there's other
Yeah.
components. So our food supply is definitely challenging. Now, I have historically 15, 20 years ago, people would come in with some degenerative diseases, whether it be arthritis or headaches or other symptoms. We would just clean up their food and put them on a quick little clean diet and support them with some nutrition, and they
Mhm.
would get better. Now,
Mm.
fast forward 15 years, that's not happening. So there's other factors in play.
Okay.
And we just had a meeting this morning where I was speaking with my doctors and my lead researcher, and we were talking about what we're noticing and what we're actually um, seeing as a change, especially in the last 4 years. And it has a lot to do with our electric grid internally. So it's kind of the way I'm saying it is even when you get all the nutrients right,
Mhm.
that's like having all the stuff you need, like, you enter a hotel, and let's say you have to try and get into one of the rooms, and that's a cell, like a cell in your body. Even if people have the nutrients, they're not getting into the cells in their body. So that's like going
Mhm.
into the hotel, and you put the key, you slide it in front of the
Mhm.
mechanism, and it doesn't open because the
Okay.
electric grid part is also not working. A lot of
Okay.
factors to that. Now, the spike protein of COVID actually will rob some of the electrolytes needed to allow for that electric signal to
Mhm.
happen.
Okay.
The
Okay.
the the different networks, the EMFs we're exposed to are adding to that. So as we clean up a lot of these things, it will make it a little easier,
Mhm.
because right now people have had to do they've had to I'm not gonna call carnivore extreme, but they've had to go to extreme measures to maintain what our
Mhm.
grandparents used to be able to maintain on the
Right,
exact
right.
same food.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
and the other piece of that I think that can't be overlooked is when you talk about the French paradox. I used to live in Geneva, so it's right next door to France, and, amazing food. I did make it my mission to find the best crème brûlée in all of
Yeah,
Europe, which I did right in Old Town Geneva, but that's another story. Um, but, the amount of activity, is key as well.
yeah,
You don't walk into a home in France or Switzerland and see a huge giant TV and a whole lazy boy sectional. That's just not part of their culture. They're
yeah,
they're very active, walking, whether it's I mean, my landlady used to clean the sidewalk and all of the, entryways of all of the apartments every Saturday, like, and she was, in her 70s,
yeah,
and she was out there doing that and walking every day. People are outside a lot regardless of the weather, so there's a different culture around physical activity,
yes,
and they're not sedentary like we are. So that's a big piece of it as well. Now, that being said, I see people. I saw a guy the other day at the gym who was working with a trainer, and he was, I would say, probably 100 pounds overweight, and they were jogging, and I was kind of alarmed because I know that's probably one of the worst things you can do when you have that much extra weight on your body, because there's gonna be an injury there, and then there's gonna be a setback, and so that's I think this is a good time to talk about what you do, about
Yeah,
your practice, because I was one of those people who made a drastic change and went carnivore, and yet I was still having issues, and I who I don't know that being strict carnivore for another year or 2 might not have had made the reversal, but I decided to work with you and your team because I wanted to know and understand if I'm doing these things, if I'm eliminating all of these other things and I'm still having these issues, what's going on? And that's what
yeah,
you were able to help me identify and start to address using blood work and exams and things like that. And so as we get deeper into this topic, I do want to encourage people that this is the time to be proactive, to get with Dr. Troy and his team, or if you have a naturopath, if you have a functional medicine doctor in your area, that's even better because they're local. But Dr. Troy works with all 50 states, multiple countries outside of the U.S., and they do a lot by telemedicine. I'm going to put the link up here. This is officialsynapse.com, official synapse.com. You can go to that website, you can fill in the form and let them know that Mary Grace referred you, and you get a free consultation. It's a discovery call, and they're gonna ask you, like, what are your top things that are, uh, bothering you? And, before you do the call, you make a list and be ready to answer those questions, and then they'll help you get to the next steps if you think it's gonna be a good fit. It's very easy, there's no pressure, and, I've been really, really happy, and then even the blood work component has been so good because when I got my blood work, then we met and you explained to me everything about the blood work. It wasn't
yeah.
just like a regular doctor's office where they send you the blood work and then they call you and say, "Okay, everything's good." And you're looking at all these numbers and you're going, "Okay," that's
Yeah,
like
I'll
yeah,
start there. I'll start there because
yeah.
that's one of the big differences. So the doctors are looking to see if you have a disease. I'm looking to see why you feel the way you do. So we
Okay.
look for the patterns in the blood work, and because we can order a lot more blood work, we can
Mhm,
look at the patterns. The medical doctors are bound by diagnosis of diseases that you currently have. They're bound by what they can order, so they're limited quite a bit. So I'm actually going to answer one of the questions that came through as well that I saw pop
yeah,
up
let's
about
let yeah.
because it's part of this. It says, if, Dr. Troy, if I could only do one thing for my health, what would be your suggestion? And so you asked me, like, what is it that we do? We look at the foundational stuff. And so we look at how are you moving?
Mhm,
And is it working for you? And where's the limitations? And are you moving enough or moving properly? We look at how are you eating? What's the right way for you to be eating right now? We look at your ability to detoxify. How is your liver, your kidneys, your
mhm,
GI tract, and your lungs? And then we look at your stress scenarios as
mhm,
far as life stresses, as far as distress on your body, and then we look at this is the one that I think is the most important, your sleep. So, the
mhm,
one thing for your health, if you want to improve one thing to improve your overall health, it's first sleep. Get your sleep restored. 90% of the people that come to us think they sleep okay, and we find a sleep disorder. There's 102 different diagnosable sleep disorders per Stanford University. Generally, the medical community looks at 6 to 8. That's it
mhm,
because that's what insurance covers. And so there's a whole slew of sleep disorders that don't allow you to get the deep restorative sleep.
mhm,
When you lose your ability to get into that deep restorative sleep, disease will come. And so sleep is by far the most important. If you have GI problems, which the majority of the United States does, your sleep is what helps fix your GI
mhm,
problems. It's one of the things. So that's why number two would be the digestive system as far as getting that on track. And then the stress part of it, if you're stuck in fight or flight, you can't be in rest and digest. So we see all kinds of problems there. So, for example, if a tiger's chasing you because you're in fight or flight, it's a horrible time to sit down and eat lunch, take a nap. or become intimate with your significant other. So those
Mm,
systems start to shut down. So we're seeing sexual dysfunction, we're seeing sleep
mhm.
dysfunction, and digestive dysfunction,
Okay.
like, just off the charts because people are stuck in fight or flight. So
Mhm,
restoring sleep is the actual answer. If I had to pick one, now we actually look at all of that. Plus, then we look at the blood work to see what nutrients you need and what you're deficient in and what you have excess in, and help
mhm,
detoxify with that. And then one of our other key successes is that we actually work as a team. So every morning we meet and we collaborate with the different specialties. So we have
mhm,
MDs, nurse practitioners, PAs, chiropractors, health coaches. We have a trauma coach. She's a nurse who actually also does trauma work, and we have worked with PTSD. And I developed a neuromuscular protocol. It's one of the reasons why people travel from all over the world,
mhm.
is because of resetting the physical implications of stress and trauma, which is
Right.
why I spoke about it early on in the show, because I see how
Yeah,
important it is.
yeah.
And stress and trauma sets up all these other metabolic conditions, just like stress would cause an ulcer. It shuts down our ability to be into that rest and digest state.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's the long-winded answer to your question.
No, that's good, thank you. We don't have a lot of questions right now, so that was a good question, and
Yeah.
so speaking of sleep, we'll come back to this. We need to take a quick break. Not that I want everybody to sleep right now, but we're gonna come back, and I want to go into a little more detail about how to start getting better sleep.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and, meanwhile, I want everybody to take a look at some of our sponsors. We have our one of our favorites right here, griddownchowdown.com. This is our freeze-dried beef. Speaking of food quality, this is, US American-grown, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. It's from ranches right around and in Oklahoma, and, these guys are America First, Team Freedom. They are helping not only to get healthy food on your table, but to preserve American farmland. And this is a big deal because the corporate culture has shut down a lot of farms. So every time you make a purchase from this company, from griddownchowdown.com, use promo code Mary Grace, you're actually helping save American farmland from being gobbled up by big corporate interests. Uh, when you purchase a 24 serving subscription through Grid Down Chowdown and you use promo code Mary Grace, they're going to give you 4 free servings. So this is a great deal. We're going to run their ad so you can see that. Make sure you use.
Oh, I can't hear you on my end. I don't know if you're still there. I think you lost sound. I'm not sure if the other people can hear you as well. Are you guys able to hear me? And that might help us figure out a little bit of the problem. Just let us know if you can hear me. Let's see. Must
Any
have been something early. There we go. There you go. I can hear you.
Yeah, no telling what's going on. Okay, so I was just talking about the beef. Did anybody hear what I said about the beef? American grown freeze-dried beef. I didn't mute myself. It happened somehow. So here we go. Freeze-dried beef. This is American grown. When you buy this, you're helping to preserve American farmland from big corporate takeovers. This is really important. I don't know if you understand how critical it is. This is not jerky. This is beef. You add water, you reconstitute it, and you can use it to cook a meal. That's what it is. We're going to run some ads. We're also going to give you the information about Synapse, about how to contact Dr. Troy and his team. We'll be right back. Don't turn the volume down. If you need to take care of a few personal things, do that, but keep the volume up so that we will get this information out to you. And we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and this is my brother. And I'm Nace, and we're at the Grid Down Chowdown. And this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with. Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
what it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com. Americans spend more now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Spurrill and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to OfficialSynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's OfficialSynapse, SYNAPSE. Okay, we're back. And for those of you who are kind of trying to keep track of all this, the easiest way to find any of the links to my affiliate partners, including Synapse, including Grid Down Chowdown, and our friends over at My Pillow, go to marygracemedia.com, click on the shopping tab, and it'll take you right there to all of those businesses. And you can simply click through and get to the business that you're looking for, marygracemedia.com. The other thing you can do there is get on my mailing list. And if you're missing notifications on social media, that's the easiest thing to do. marygracemedia.com, get on the mailing list. And for those who have been asking, one more thing I wanted to emphasize is that I have a Substack, and that is a kind of like a blog and a video platform. It is Mary Grace realmarygrace.substack.com, and I post replays of my videos up there. Some people don't like all the commercials and things like that on Rumble, and I get it. If you go to my Substack, you can become a free subscriber or you can be a paid subscriber. If you do a monthly subscription payment, that helps me directly to keep all of my social media and all of my channels running. That's realmarygrace.substack.com. And we're going to get back to our content right now. I've got Dr. Troy Spurrill with me here, and he is the founder and chief of OfficialSynapse.com. And he is talking to us today about some of the basics for getting back to optimal health. And one of those is restoring your sleep. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll jump into Q&A. Uh, so what would be some like 3 basic things that somebody can start with to get their sleep back on track?
Number one is just knowing your blood sugar level. So some people will actually have low blood sugar. So if you go to sleep at like 10 o'clock and you're waking up 2, 3 a.m., that can be a low blood sugar type of scenario. And so that can help managing that by exercising during the day, eating a little bit different during the day can help. Some people, though, have to have some protein before going to bed to get them through the night. Also, melatonin, which is the deep sleep hormone, that can be derailed as we age because there's three things that cause that the precursor, tryptophan, to be converted into quinolinic acid, a
Mhm.
neurotoxin, and that's stress, infection, and inflammation. So if you have low grade infections, if you have inflammation, which a lot of people do right now, it actually starts to derail your ability to make that deep sleep hormone. That deep sleep hormone is very key for the second half of your sleep. The first 4 hours are very serotonin dependent. The last 4 hours are very melatonin dependent. And so it's really important to get the melatonin by managing your stress, infections, and inflammation set. There's also, like I said, there's a lot of sleep disorders. So there's one that's called thin person sleep apnea is the nickname for it, or sleeping beauty syndrome.
That's
And so
bad.
yeah, it's when people who don't have the weight gain, but their neck tension on the back can be there for too long, and it starts to shut down the airway muscle, so you get a little less oxygen going to the brain, and then it disrupts not every sleep, but some sleep, so you don't get in as deep a sleep as often. That's one of the most common ones because we're being stressed by life more. It can happen from looking at your phone, computers, thinking, or thinking excessively without actually having your time to just meditate on the word, or just be alone with God and our own thoughts. So we're way more challenged that way than we ever used to be. So fasting from technology, fasting from food can all play a particular role, and then just boosting your immune system and all the
Mhm.
changes that are happening in the world right now, in the United States in particular, with the food and the identification is going to allow for crucial conversations to be had to clean up the rest of the stuff. In 5 years, we're going to be in a completely different world when it comes to this. We'll have a lot more support.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned fasting. I see so much conflicting,
Yeah.
information about that. Some people are not not in favor of it at all. Some people advocate, something called OMAD, 1 meal a day, where you are fasting for 12 to 16 hours minimum
Yeah.
between meals. So, like, you have your last meal at 6 PM, then you wake up at 6 AM, maybe you break your fast then, maybe you wait till lunch, that type of thing, and breakfast is breaking a fast, right? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it really
It,
there's a lot of conflict.
Well, it's because we're all different.
Yeah,
So there should be conflict because we're not all the same that way.
okay, okay.
25% of the population have genetics that actually predispose them to reactive hypoglycemia, meaning their blood sugar will drop. They should not fast. 75% do. So it's like that old adage of the blind men that are putting their hands on an elephant, and one
Mm,
person is describing the trunk and the other person is describing the tail and the other person is describing the body, and they're arguing about what an elephant is. Well, the reality is they're all right, but it's only because of their perception of what their experience is
mhm,
that they're fighting to be right about that. And
okay.
the big reality is they're all right. It's all parts of it. So it
Right,
should be very
okay.
different. So know your body, know your identity. That's the answer.
And this leads us back to, Dr. Troy and his team. This is the big difference, and I know I can't emphasize this enough. The amount of coaching and information and guidance that you get when you're working with a team like at Official Synapse, it's a game changer. It really is, and I will give a shout out to my listeners because Dr. Troy told me that people who listen to the Mary Grace Show are not only well educated, but highly motivated.
Yeah.
And typically when all of you uh, call in or fill in the form for a discovery call, there is, I would say, like, less there's more follow through from all of you, and then also less groundwork required because of the level of motivation and education and awareness that you all have. So, in spite of all of the uh, frustration maybe that you're feeling, give yourselves a pat on the back because you've done a lot of the homework and the groundwork that some people haven't even begun to notice or take in. So that's a good thing. Um, you guys are great. And so I want to congratulate you. Now we do have a question. Let's transition over to some questions.
Yep.
Uh, and by the way, Dr. Troy is located in Minnesota, not far from the Minneapolis airport. And so if you are kind of thinking, I do want to get in touch with them, or if you're in that area or you're within half a day's drive or anything like that, that's even another motivation to get with them and partner with them to get your health back on track. Um, and if you can't do that, the telemedicine option is for you. Okay, so we have a question from Catherine on Facebook. She's asking about hormone replacement therapy. Is that something that your clinic works with for women? I would presume also
Yes.
men, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, we women and men. There are different rules and regulations, so it depends on what state you're in as to whether or not we could work with you. If you travel to Minnesota and you get the prescription at the time that you're here, definitely we can work with you. Sometimes we will help get the information and have to find someone local to work with. But some women shouldn't do hormone replacement. Most can. The biggest thing is the need for hormone replacement is actually facilitated, or it happens because there's two systems that are not working properly. The adrenal gland system, what's called the HPA axis, so the part of the brain that regulates your emotions, your hormones, your blood pressure, things like that, body temperature, and your adrenal glands and thyroid, is not communicating properly because the hormones got thrown off by whether it be something in the environment or lifestyle, something else, and then the liver system. So a lot of times you have to make sure your liver and adrenal systems are operating functionally, and then you don't necessarily need the hormone replacement. However, having said that, it is very important for a lot of women to get that so they can feel the stability of what they're supposed to feel like until you
Mm,
can fix the underlying foundational stuff. So, yes, we do. It's very important. It's got to be the right type of hormone replacement, the bioidentical. And there's just, like, some women still shouldn't, just based on some circumstances and certain cancers and things like that in your history, still are estrogen dependent or hormone dependent. So, and testosterone is a class 4, the drug they call it, actually. So you can't prescribe that across state lines. And so there's certain issues or conditions like that if you're out of state. But we know how to address all of that. And
mhm,
yeah, the hormones are a big, big part of the healing process. It keeps your brain protected. So there's a lot of attack as far as like hormone mimickers coming from our environment as well. So
mm,
giving someone estrogen who's estrogen toxic as far as environmental estrogens can be a little tricky. So we always like to get to the root cause and look at that too. I'm not just one to here, take this and we'll see you later, because that's just another band-aid on top of
yeah,
all these damaged cells and receptors as well as what we see.
mhm.
So, but
That
yes, we do.
yeah, root cause, that's the key
Root
word
cause.
here, and that
Root
is
cause.
where when I talk about the blood work, and getting the report, it's an extensive report because Dr. Troy is like an investigator, and he and his team, and they not only do they use their natural, scientific knowledge, but they also pray
Yeah.
and get guidance from God. And so when you partner with them, it's really you're not just hiring them, you're getting into a partnership. And that I think is the key because the model of medicine that we have been trained in as consumers is we are passive. We have been passive. We've gone in to see a doctor. We see them as the authority, and they basically prescribe things based on sickness. They're looking for disease, and then they're also doing things that are dictated by what insurance will pay for. And this is really key because you've explained this before. Insurance doesn't pay for you to find things that are root causes in order to prevent. Insurance pays for dealing with disease. And that is why they don't cover diagnostic blood work that has to do with getting to the root cause. This is so critical. I hope everybody understands this because this is the difference between taking a proactive stance on your health, which leads you to walk into your God-given destiny, and being a passive consumer and recipient of a system that is basically a spokesperson for big pharma. It's light years apart, and this is the key for anybody. I hope if you get nothing else today that you get this, that you become a partner in taking charge of your wellness. It's a completely different paradigm. Some people are closer to it than others. Some people are well
Yeah.
into it. Other people, this is a new idea. And that's why I do this. That's why I have this show to help bring awareness to this and hopefully give you the tools that you can access.
The other side of that is our goal is to empower people to have a
Mhm.
knowledge about their body to the point where if something like COVID ever happened again, you wouldn't have fear that's being pushed on you and you would know how to see a lie. We had 95-year-olds breeze
Mm,
through COVID because they knew their zinc was good, they knew their immune system was
mhm,
good to fight off these things, and to have that level of and praying and knowing that God is in control, but to come from that platform of knowingness that you are equipped to handle what's coming at you is what everyone can have as they go through life instead of just being following the guidance of
mhm.
whoever's the professional. Knowing yourself,
Yeah.
empowering you to really know who you are and how your body works.
That's so good, yeah,
Yeah,
and obviously being mindful of what information you consume.
yeah,
When my dad got COVID, it was 2021, we didn't have the TV on 24/7, getting fed all the statistics and all of the fear,
yeah,
panic porn, I call it, and so when he found out he had COVID, he literally this is what he did, he was just okay. You know, like he didn't even 'cause he hadn't bought into the lie that it was a death sentence and that
yeah,
he had to panic. To him, it was just, "I don't feel too good. I have a cold. I'm having a little bit of a hard time breathing." So we got him on oxygen and that kind of thing. Now, I was a little more stressed because I was just getting over really bad case of COVID, and I felt, like, horrible. I was so sick, and I was taking care of my dad. But he pulled through, so praise God. And he was 85 at the time.
hmm,
Um, yeah, so really, I love what you said about that. We do have another question. Let me just check the Rumble. We haven't been over there to see. Uh, we have a comment on the sleep. Egrabor on Rumble says, "I really need sleep. I'm 81 and haven't slept over 3 to 4 night hours a night for years and years. It's a hard time functioning." Yeah, that's they're yeah, I would
yeah,
say, if you can contact Dr. Troy and his team and see if you can get a discovery call with them and maybe they can help you because 81 is not old in God's time.
yeah.
He has a lot for you to do. The fact that you're listening today on Rumble tells me that you are proactively seeking and wanting to continue moving in your destiny and your God-given destiny. That's the key. Uh, so do you see the question about the Wi-Fi, Dr.
Yes.
Troy?
So the question
Okay.
is, any thoughts on how Wi-Fi affects the body, if at all? Yes, I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I do believe it's another form of pollution. I'm going to call it. It's a disruptor, and so we are going to be looking at that, just like our food is being looked at right now, and
Mhm.
then our drug administration is being looked at as well. If you look at what Trump said, he said, "I want clean food, clean water, clean air." Well, guess where Wi-Fi goes? It's part of the air.
Right. Okay.
And so there is a component where that has to be looked at as well. Now, there's a great book out there called The History, no, it's called The Invisible Rainbow, The History of Electricity. It has nothing to do with LGBTQ. It has to do with electricity. And this is a medical doctor who wrote this book, and he goes through
Mhm.
the history, starting with Marconi and the radio towers, and how when we brought in these frequencies, how it disrupted the natural rhythms of the biome. The bees died in his backyard.
Mhm.
So every time we upgrade our grid, there's an actual viral outbreak. And so it's very fascinating. It's a great book. So there's
What's it
and
called
his
again?
it's called The Invisible Rainbow:
Mhm.
A History of Electricity. And essentially, when he was this is, I'm not going to ruin the book. This is only a quick little take on it, but when he was a young child, his family got the very first television set and plugged it in, and he had this ringing in his ears, in his head. He could hear it, and so it was very concerning. They couldn't put their TV in, and then he'd walk down the streets, and he could tell when a neighbor got their first television sets. And soon there was no place in his neighborhood he can go without hearing that buzz. Then there's no place, he'd go to the woods, and eventually that
Wow.
was no good. And then he'd go find some deep caverns somewhere, and he'd get peace there. And then eventually that went away. So now there's no place on the planet he has found
Mhm.
where he doesn't hear it. And so he calls himself the canary in the coal mine, where
Mhm.
he and many others like him are ultra sensitive to these frequencies that just
Right.
go through us, that we don't realize they're having an impact. Now
Mhm.
know that they disrupt the electric grid, like I was talking about earlier about the hotel key not working. Our electric
Mm.
grid is actually being impacted,
Okay.
but we
Okay.
need the data, we need the research, like RFK is
Mhm.
doing with the FDA. We need that to come out.
Right.
We need more protective mechanisms for that, or
Wow.
a
Wow.
different energy source that actually can do the same thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot to children with autism, that they're extremely sensitive to frequencies and
Yeah,
noises that other people can't even detect
yeah.
in the atmosphere. So that is very interesting. I think let me see if we have any more questions. We don't have a lot of questions today, and that's okay. Uh, I wanted to ask you one question about peptides.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about this. So there are it's coming out that the most common peptide that people are now hearing about is Ozempic. But can you explain? I think, now people are kind of getting hit with peptides for skin, peptides for weight loss, peptides for memory, that type of thing. Can you give us an idea of, like, just explain what is a peptide? How are they administered? What is the best way to go about getting peptides and adopting that? And if you think if it's warranted,
Yeah.
how can people do that safely if they're feeling like they wanna go that direction?
So it's a great question. Ozempic is a peptide, and it's a GLP-1 agonist, and there are other peptides out there. The easiest way to
Mhm,
understand peptides is they're very similar to hormones. So they do help with our ability to communicate something in the system, generally speaking. So
mhm,
certain peptides will help with cell signaling and help with communication to a part of our immune system that goes and cleans things up, or different areas in the body. The Ozempic, the problem with Ozempic is, because now we're seeing all the lawsuits starting to come out about them,
mhm,
and the problem is they're way overdosing it. It shouldn't be having the
mm,
negative reactions that it's having. So I have seen some very positive things with the low dose peptide usage. And it's kind of like your thyroid. Like when you take a thyroid hormone, you got to get the dosing right, but you are
Mhm.
consistent with it. And so
Okay.
there's a play there, but I'm just going to make the call that they're dosing Ozempic the way they are, the recommendations based off of profits, not actually off of what people need. And so I'm not going to throw Ozempic out. I don't. We looked at onboarding it with one part of our clinic because we do work with weight loss. We work with
Mhm.
anti-aging. We even do skin treatments and things of that nature.
So
And that is that yeah, exactly. That is um, it was enticing, but the problem was the side effects, and the problem now is that it's being overused. There is a play, there's a usage if you actually microdose it and then
Mhm.
wean people off. So
Okay.
peptides, there are all kinds of peptides, BPC. There's peptides for skin. There's peptides for joint pain. It's hit or miss. Sometimes it can be a game changer, take away pain that's been there because it helps your signaling system. Now, these signaling
Okay.
systems are destroyed by inflammation. That's why peptide needs are there. So they can help some
Mhm.
people regain their memory. They can help some people actually improve with their pains and aches and or regenerate damaged skin. So there's a lot of use for them, and like everything though, it gets abused. So we do
Mhm.
injections with peptides, and there are you can actually take them orally. There's different value in that, but I think peptides are a good tool in the toolbox, but like everything else, they've got to be used appropriately. And there's a lot of people that are trying to make a profit off of peptides instead of understanding the patient and who really needs it and who doesn't.
Right, and this leads to my next question is I think there is a lot of online business, where people can order peptides and, sort of go through a shopping cart experience and then get them prescribed and get them at home. Uh, what do you see as the downsides to that if somebody takes matters into their own hands?
Well, you just have to be very, very careful and discerning. We have to be careful and discerning, and we know a lot about how the body is supposed to work, and we know what to look for. So taking things into your own hands, this is kind of what we want to empower people to do. We want to empower you to know, to take ownership over your body and to know, but you still have to be very careful. And if you have a trusted resource, use it. One of the things that I do, I have a what I call talk with the doc, where once a month I will log in and just answer questions, kind of like what we're doing right now. It's $20
Mhm,
per family, and people just come in and ask questions. And it'll be stuff like that. And I will say, whoa, 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 that's dangerous. In my 2 cents, that's dangerous. And if you trust what
mhm,
I'm saying, then that gives them pause to hold off. Or I'll say, generally, you want to look for these types of scenarios and outcomes when you're doing something like that, or check with this local expert, or here's a resource here that'll help guide you. Because I really do feel people need to learn more about how their body works. Delegating your health to a professional, those days are gone.
yeah, so taking personal responsibility. We do have a question that's popped out from Terry. She's one of our, top listeners on Facebook and a, huge advocate of the Mary Grace Show. She says, "Dr. Troy, how do you feel about putting collagen in your coffee?"
In your coffee? Oh,
Mhm,
so I don't know how impactful it is because almost everyone who does that also takes collagen elsewhere. And so I am a fan as far as that part of it.
mhm,
If you can tolerate the coffee. So coffee again is like we were talking about earlier. Some people have to avoid it. Some people it's fine.
okay,
Coffee is a known carrier of fungal and stuff like that. But collagen, I'm a huge fan of it, and the EMFs actually down regulate our ability to produce collagen. So, like because we see a change with glutathione, glutathione's our
mhm,
main antioxidant, and it'll start pulling from collagen from your skin to help buffer that system. So that's why a lot of these EMFs are prematurely aging people as well because of the glutathione collagen scenario. So
mhm,
that's why you've
mhm,
seen such a big need for collagen these days. And my wife is the poster child for collagen. She's in her 60s, and the amount of hair. she has grown, and her skin, people comment all the time, and she'll put collagen in her coffee. She'll put collagen. Well, she'll bathe in collagen if she could, but
Yeah, yeah,
she's a
I give it to
huge
my
fan.
dad. I put it in his I make him protein shakes every day, and, his hair, it grows really fast, and he's old, and his nails. So, okay, so there is another question. There's a question on Rumble that I think it's a little esoteric, but going back to
Yeah,
the frequencies. Anne says, "We live just up a slope from the Columbia River Dam. Do you think it's part of our problems?" Now, she didn't enumerate the problems, but,
yeah.
um, is
The answer is potentially yes. It could be. So anyone who lives within a certain distance of a tower, or anyone who lives within a certain distance of where energy production is of some way, shape, or form, there's a potential problem. Now, I'll say it this way. Interestingly enough, we know that there are different energy spikes on the planet, like where there's tectonic plate activity. There'll actually be a frequency change in that region, and you'll know it because anthills will form. You'll know it because animals tend to be attracted to those areas where there's this energy spikes. And so if you can get a sense of anthills, a lot of anthills on your property or in around the area, you're constantly addressing that, or you see a lot of animals coming to your yard. That's actually one of the signs of these energetic EMF spikes coming from the actual, yeah, the place itself. They're kind of, it's like a noise they hear, so it's kind of like a frequency. So
Mhm,
like birds will actually run into to things
mhm,
because it distracts them, or they're attracted to it, but then all of a sudden they lose
mhm,
their bearing and stuff. So there's potential. It depends on what they're doing as far as if they're just there to stop the flow of water, or if they're there to actually be an energy production system. So
right, right,
highly
interesting.
likely, I'm going to say.
And speaking of frequency, there's a lot of data out now showing that the windmills that they're putting out in the ocean are
Yeah,
killing the whales, and on the East Coast, the southern right whale is actually in danger, and if you live in North Carolina, there are, I think, at least 4 big wind projects that are slated. President Trump is trying to get those stopped. The governor of North Carolina is lobbying to get them resumed. That's something to be aware of if you're in North Carolina. Contact your, state reps and let them know where you stand on that,
yeah,
because some issues going on. But, let's get back to, uh, utensils. This is an interesting question. Healthiest kitchen utensils to use for cooking. There's been a lot out about those plastic spatulas and things that people use in nonstick cookware.
yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
Yeah, you
I
have to avoid the plastics and the nonstick cookware. Um, the there are some safer nonstick stuff, but generally speaking, the I'm going to say stainless steel is by far the best with everything.
Mhm.
I will use the Hexclad for they've got diamond encrusted in the interior plate. So there's a
Yeah.
component of the Hexclad that's not good, but it doesn't release. They've blocked it. They've contained it. So you get a good cook, you get a good sear, you get a good everything with that. So that's
Mhm.
currently what I'm using. It's not 100% ideal, but I actually uh, wrote to the company and got their off gassing and other things. So I
Okay.
decided to buy it, and so that's what I'm using there. It's a good product, not perfect, but good, and a lot better than a lot of the other things. Because I like
Mm,
stainless steel as well, but there's when you can the Hexclad's got enough of the no stick properties, if you will, and
mhm.
it holds up against with the actual stainless
Right.
steel spatulas and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Uh, we have, um we have cast iron
Cast iron
in
is
our
good.
house.
However, there's a thing with guys with cast iron have
Okay.
to be careful. So, for example, I have a scenario where I hold on to iron, so I have to avoid iron.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I jokingly go around telling people I am Iron Man. And so that you should know that, Mary. That's one of my standard dad
I
jokes.
yeah,
But
I didn't even know that.
yeah. So I don't My wife needs iron, and so cooks in cast iron, but I have to avoid it. So it's one
That's
of those things.
interesting.
That's why we went with Hexclad. So there are people who have to
Okay,
avoid it. Most
okay.
people need it though.
That's interesting, yeah, and so if you are worried about that, there is also, you can get enamel-coated cast iron. Le Creuset makes that. I think Lodge has some as well. I've been using my Dutch oven a lot for cooking, especially meats like, um, chuck roast and things like
Yeah.
that. You just slow cook it in the oven, and um, it's really good. And I think people are using some silicone utensils for cooking and serving and things like that. Wood obviously
Wood, as
is
long as it's not coated.
right, okay. So you just condition it with things like olive oil and things like
Yes.
that to keep
Yep.
it okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think we're in a good spot today. I did send somebody to my website to find collagen. Vital Proteins is a good one. We sell it on my wellness store, and you can find the wellness store uh, at my website, marygracemedia.com. Hold on a second. I'll put the code up here. You can go to my website and just go. You can go to the wellness store. I have a link to my wellness store as well. Uh, Either way, you can go there and find the collagen. And there is a subscribe mode on the website, and it enables you to get a little bit of a discount if you're going to be ordering something monthly or bi-monthly or anything like that on the wellness store. And again, go to marygracemedia.com. You can get access to anything that we have there, any supplements that you are getting now, especially if you're using Amazon or one of the big box stores. Consider purchasing them from my wellness store because we actually the companies are vetted for purity, and you know that you're not getting a knockoff when you buy from the wellness store, and the prices are competitive, and the shipping is really fast. Um, so so that's good. Okay, do we have time for one more question
Sure.
from YouTube? Alrighty, here we go. And that's Terra Warrior on YouTube. Do you want to read that question?
Yes, you mentioned the glutathione and collagen relationship. Can you articulate what you meant by that? Well, glutathione is actually used in the production of collagen, and it helps protect against damage from free radicals. So glutathione is the main antioxidant in the body, and it's the main thing that helps pull out heavy metals and a lot of the toxins that we're exposed to. So the more environmental chemicals you're exposed to, whether it be in our food, our water, or our air, it depletes you of your glutathione. So if you are depleted in glutathione, you're going to be making less collagen, number one. But also, the collagen that you do have is not going to be as protected as much. And so you'll actually start to lose more of it. So just by improving the collagen status in your skin and taking of collagen will help you require less glutathione. Most people are just really needing the glutathione. My main point with that is if you don't have enough glutathione, it will eventually lead to less collagen, and therefore
Interesting.
you will need more collagen. This is why so many people need collagen right now. It's not because of collagen deficiencies that are we're getting plenty of collagen in our food per se. It's because of the toxicity and the need for the glutathiones being used up. It's a supply and demand thing. We actually have a machine that does dry needling that actually restores the collagen in your skin. So we'll do that act
Mhm.
collagen renewal with an IV glutathione. And it's like getting, and you just do it once, and it's like getting a complete makeover
Ooh,
facelift and detox at the same time. It's a
I
really good.
like that.
Yeah, yeah, I know
I
everyone.
like that. I like that. So I have a question about something that has been making the rounds, especially on X. There's a lot of talk about something called methylene blue.
Yeah.
And people are using it to supplement. RFK Jr. was using it. There was a video of him on the plane putting the drops into his drink, and that sort of that kind of went viral.
Yeah.
And, I wonder if you could explain it and if it's something that, are you familiar with it? Is
Oh,
it
yeah,
something
we
that
we
could be
use it. That's a bit of
beneficial?
an oops on his part because that is,
He
it's very
megadosed.
yeah, it's megadose, but it's also controversial in a lot of areas,
Yeah.
it has application. So, that's a whole other, story. So glutathione's an antioxidant, and then you have things that are pro-oxidants. So there's this scenario
Mhm.
right now, like carnivore is pro-oxidant. It actually causes oxidative stress to the point where then it forces your own system to react to it. That's what methylene blue does. So it's the same type of thing. So
Oh, okay.
some you have to be careful with it because there are side effects, and if you take too much of it, or if you don't get the dosing right, it can cause significant problems. It can affect people with mitochondria. So it really does have to be managed. It tells me he's seeing someone who's doing some high end work when it
Mhm.
comes to that stuff. We use it. It's one of the things that we have used. It will turn your teeth blue if you don't be careful. So
Mhm.
you got to do
Mhm.
different. You got to use it properly. And there are certain things like uh, chlorine dioxide, methylene blue, carnivore diet. They're oxidants. It's the same thing chemotherapy does. So
Interesting.
chemotherapy will actually go in and cause so much oxidative stress that it kills the cells. So that it's like theirs is an overdose to the point of it causing damage.
Mhm.
So that's why
Mhm.
there's a window. If you don't do it right, then you can get yourself
Mhm.
into trouble. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of application for it and a lot of pause and cautionary steps
Mhm.
that should be
Mhm.
taken with it.
And can you just clarify because I don't want anybody to go away thinking, um, carnivore is like chemotherapy and I should never
No,
consider it.
no. So
I wanna
chemo's
be
up
clear.
here with oxidative stress, carnivore is down
Yeah.
here. So
Okay.
basically, there's a big difference. The mechanism's the same though, as far as
Mm.
how it can affect your cells. It's just not going to overload your cells. So the difference is carnivore doesn't damage the surrounding cells. So that's what same with
Okay.
methylene blue, same with chlorine dioxide. When it's used properly,
Right.
it'll actually cause oxidative stress on the affected cell, but not damage the healthy cells around
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Chemo damages the healthy cells around it
Right.
because it's just
Okay.
dropping a bomb on the whole
I
thing.
was gonna say it's like a landmine.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah, that very, very interesting, it's always good. I love having these discussions. For those of you who are just tuning in, you're wondering who we're talking to today, this is, Dr. Troy Spruill. He is the owner and founder of Synapse Center for Health and Healing, and, he is one of our partners here at the Mary Grace Show. If you are interested in talking to him and his team there, further, go to their website and fill in the form and get a free discovery call. You can go there, tell them that Mary Grace sent you. If you prefer to call, they do have a phone number. It's 651-209-9906, 651-209-9906. And, they can go through some of your questions, um, set up a discovery call, you should get a list of things ready when you do the discovery call so that you can make use of that time and they can help guide you and make a decision about whether it's a good fit for you. And, also, for family members, if you have children, teens, college age, kids, it might be something that you wanna look into for them as well. So Dr. Troy, you're right here, officialsynapse.com. Also, you're doing something exciting that is going to bring the functional medicine, root cause medicine to the whole country. Can you share with our listeners what that is? It's very exciting.
Yeah, so we have been asked to bring on 100 affiliates. So what that means is we're going to be teaching people our model. They're not going to be mini synapses, but we're going to be teaching our model to the country, which is a kingdom-based model. So it's basically using functional medicine, the best of the traditional world and functional medicine world, and we're going to be teaching different practitioners. So if you're a practitioner, a medical doctor, a DO, a nurse practitioner, a chiropractor, a coach, any type of healthcare practitioner, and you want to be an affiliate, just reach out to us at our website. Or if you know someone in your area that be interested, refer them to our website. because we're trying. Our biggest challenge is we see people from all 50 states and 12 countries, but when they come in, we find a lot of things that require local action, and the local facilities are not equipped. So we're going to be teaching and training across the board, including I just left our large trauma hospital here in the Twin Cities. They have asked me to come in, and I've been walking with their surgical teams,
Amazing.
talking about functional medicine and what they can do to implement strategies to help with their surgical patients get out of the hospital sooner or heal faster. And they're like sponges; they're soaking
Mhm.
it up. This is completely different. This is why I know there's going to be a change in the healthcare system,
Yeah.
because what we're doing is very frontline and very cutting edge. So
Mhm.
and miracles are happening. Next time I'm on your show, ask me about the miracle with the gang leader that occurred at the hospital. It's too long to get into right now, but we'll go through that. There's so many good things that are happening.
Wow, yeah, I'll put a note on that. That sounds awesome. So I think this is a good place to stop. We always have such a good conversation, and everybody who's listening, again, if you have questions, sometimes you don't want to ask your question in public, and that's totally understandable. Please go to officialsynapse.com and set up that discovery call. And their number again is 651-209-9906, 651-209-9906. And they will take your call, and the team will set up that discovery call with you. And I think that anybody who is really serious about their health right now, this is the way to go. And I hope that everybody has a great day. I will be back here tomorrow on the Mary Grace Show at 1 p.m. Eastern with one of your favorite guests. We will be having a really nice, long conversation about President Trump's first 30 days in office and what's been happening and what we can look forward to. That will be at 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Mary Grace Show. If you do like what you're seeing today, please remember to share this. Get this show out to as many places as you can. Also, leave a comment when you come back. It helps to push up the video in the algorithm so more people see it. If you're on Rumble, there is now a repost option, which is amazing. And you can also hit the hit the thumbs up underneath the video. One last thing I will say is that all of my social media accounts are verified. If you ever get a message from an account that does not have a badge next to it, a verification badge, that is a fake account, and you should block it and report it. This is very important. Those accounts are trying to scam you. Do not click any links that they put in the comments or in messages. Very, very important. They're scammers. And so if you see, sometimes they'll even have the same name, Mary Grace Media. If you do not see the verification badge, block, report, do not click anything. I want to protect you from these online scammers. Uh, and if you want to make sure that you're clicking on my links, you can go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and you know for sure if you click on that link, you're going directly to my page. I think that's it for today, and I hope everybody has a great day. As always, go outside, touch the grass, look at the sky, get some fresh air, and pray, meditate, and spend some time away from all the noise. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we will see you back here tomorrow on the Mary Grace Show.